Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to Down the Rabbit Hole, dropping truth bombs in the battle of the mind. I'm your host, Michael, aka Hands and Feet from HeHasAnswers.com. Just want to make sure my mic is working. So tonight we're going to be talking about the reality that the news we're watching, friends, is actually a lot of it propaganda used to shape our minds, our thinking, our politics, everything about us so that we will go along with an agenda being pushed and funded by very wealthy, powerful people. And we've already talked through parts 1 through 6 that many of these very wealthy, powerful, influential people are totally amoral. Many of them are involved in pedophile sex rings, and then the governments cover that up. We looked at Epstein, we looked at Nexium, we looked at Belgium with Marc Dutroux, and then part 4, we looked at the reality that we've been warned many times in the last 60, 70 years about what Marxists were doing, and the reality that the Rockefellers, so, people would call them free market capitalists, they're I don't know what you'd call them. They're certainly greedy. They helped fund the Bolshevik Revolution, which overthrew the czars and made way for communism and Marxism to take over the Soviet Union and then spread its tentacles into the rest of the world. Why would they do that if they were about capitalism? Well, because the end goal, friends, is a one world government where we're all under the control of a governance system that's being controlled and puppeted itself by the wealthiest, most powerful elite people who dictate where and when, or through the governments dictate who we can shop at and who can have industry in order for those same people up top holding the strings to get richer and richer and more powerful. Make sure you're sharing this. We got a few people viewing already, but we want as many people as possible to hear this information. This is not conspiracy theory. Everything I've shown you on this channel so far has been conspiracy fact. We've looked at the evidence. It's in broad daylight. And that's just it. The news spends very little time talking about any of this. They try to avoid it as much as possible. And we need to be the people that get the truth out. Part 5 talked about the reality that our firearms are not being taken away for our safety. In fact, we're left a lot less safe without firearms on the whole. Yeah, sure. A few crimes or murders in passion or whatever will be stopped when a law-abiding citizen has his firearms taken away. When that person just in their life, unfortunately, came to a place where they were willing to use their rightfully attained, legally attained firearm to do a crime. Most of the crime is being done by criminals who have illegally attained firearms, mostly smuggled in. And so it's all about taking away our ability to say to our government, you guys are actually supposed to be working for us, and you are becoming tyrants and dictators. And it's a little known fact, Justin Trudeau here in Canada, and many of the people in the Liberal government, and of course the New Democratic Party, New Democratic, that's a code for socialist, they are huge Marxists. They want this. They think a global governance system would be the most amazing and incredible thing, because in the height of their arrogance, or in their naivety, perhaps for some of them, if we want to give benefit of the doubt, they think that we're going to be able to bring a peaceful utopia to this world. One of the theories is if you have no borders and only one nation, a world nation, then there's no one to fight each other. How many civil wars have there been in history? How many times have you argued and fought with your own sibling? How many people have killed people in their family? And so, of course, even if you've had arguments, perhaps that led to blows with siblings, that's small scale, okay? Add bombs, add armies, and add a lot of people in power and anonymity, because we're from all over the globe. And now we have a reality that you're always going to have tension. Doesn't matter if everyone's under one border. So let's look again real quick here, because we're looking at the news. I'm really sorry. There's so much information. Don't worry. We're not going to watch every single video. You're going to see a lot of tabs, but we are going to watch a few. Most of them just going to show you like, hey, take note of this video. Go watch it on your own time. Sorry, I'm just trying to open up my notepad here. There it is. I'd closed it, unfortunately. Okay, so here we have something we already looked at in part 4, The Naked Communist, 45 Goals to Destroy the United States of America. This was all written in a book and released in 1958, I believe, by a former FBI agent, Cleon Skauson. It's in his book, The Naked Communist, and he wrote these 45 points, I think all of which have been fulfilled by now, which means we're actually being subverted. We're over the tipping point. The only way we can come back is if we really get aggressive and put in the truth out there to help people say, wait a second, stop the bus. We can't go down this road anymore. Maybe by the grace of God, we'll be able to reverse course. But if we just look real quick here. Yes, point 18. Gain control of all student newspapers. Okay, this is following 17, where they want to control the schools because that's where people learn what they're going to think about and shape all of their ideas. But they want to get control of the student newspapers. 20, infiltrate the press. That's our news media. They, not just TV, but everything. Get control of book review assignments, editorial writing. Editorial writing is where you have more of the opinion pieces, policy making decisions. And lastly here for this portion, 21, gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures. Now, when we had this, if you want to actually watch this as a video, guys, 45 communist goals from the Naked Communist. This was on LinkedIn, by the way. So if you want to watch this as a video, here it is, nice and easy. And then here we have Yuri Bezmenov. This is the ex-KGB propaganda agent who was stationed for a time in India. That's where he was able to finally disguise himself as a hippie and then sneak out of the country and defect. And eventually he found his way to Canada, where after a while, he actually worked for the CBC in Canada, and the CBC shut him down because they felt he was saying too many disparaging things about the Soviet Union. So then he found his way to the United States. But so he knows all about how Soviet system, Marxists, how they use the news as a tool of propaganda. So I recommend, you don't have to necessarily watch what I've put out. I don't care. I'm not doing this for myself or my own ego here. I'm doing it for people to know the truth. If you just want to watch this here, great. Or you can go back, follow my profile, and check out my past videos I've uploaded, and you'll see parts 1 through 6. Wherein I play many of these clips. So, who owns the media? That is a huge question. And there are, here it is. This is from PBS, Public Broadcasting Station. It's publicly funded or privately funded. Well, it's by donation, I believe, down in the States. They write here, by 2000, 6 corporations had ownership of most media, and today 5 dominate the industry. Time Warner, Disney, Murdoch's News Corporation, Bertelsmann of Germany, and Viacom. So I guess they're talking about the whole entire world, but people think of Disney and they think, oh yeah, it's just the cartoons and the oh, whoa, wait, they got Marvel. Okay, the Marvel movies. Oh, wait, they just bought Fox now. Okay. Friends, they own so much. So then we look at what's going on, and there's infographics, okay? So, I mean, you can look at it, and all of these, like, what is this one? I don't know, but so much of this stuff is connected. The web world, who owns who? You get all the different icons here. So, this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a fact. Huge, wealthy, I think they're called conglomerates. I don't know. But they own everything. Here's another big one. But it's the same for newspaper, radio, TV, everything. So if you have, let's say you and your friends, all kind of like your friends because you have a lot of the same opinions and you get together and you can talk politics and you don't have to argue about it. Although it's nice to be able to have discussions where you don't hate each other afterwards. That's what real friendship's about, even if you have differing opinions. But, and you owned all the news. What might happen to the news? If you really were like, actually you and me, because we're lowly peons who make less than, $20 million a year. We have probably a much more humble opinion about how things should go. But when you have billions and billions of dollars and you believe that you have gotten to where you are because it's your birthright and you deserve it and you have the right to control everything. Wow. It's crazy. Usually I have like 25 viewers by now. I have 3 and, I can only speculate. What's going on. But anyways, these people think they know it all. They know which direction the nations should go, where the world should go. And so they hire whom they want to hire, and those people hire whom they want to hire. And eventually you get a system where everything's pointed in one direction. CNN is a fan favorite. Okay, CNN is terrible. This is called CNN's Convenient Technical Issues. And you're going to see why. We'll watch the whole one here.
Okay, so asking for names, nothing wrong with that. Unmasking in and of itself, nothing wrong with that. Leaking classified information, and by definition, these phone calls were classified. That's a problem, correct?
Absolutely, it is.
And if anyone did leak the contents of these conversations with or without the name, that would be a problem, yes? We've lost the shot. I wonder if we can at least get him on the phone.
Hillary Clinton's a liar. She can't be trusted. And now the two faces of Hillary Clinton are coming out. The fact through WikiLeaks that she says one thing and...
Oh, no. All right, let's see if we can get Congressman Collins back.
So just look at Chris Cuomo of CNN. He's one of the darlings of CNN. Look at his reaction. We'll play it again.
Oh, no. All right, let's see if we...
He's just heartbroken. Oh, my gosh. His friend Hillary Clinton's having truth exposed about her, and darn, we lost that person.
Congressman Collins back. Obviously, we just lost the satellite feed. That sucks.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he was watching CNN fake news. What do you think?
You don't buy
it. That was a joke.
I know it was a joke. I'm saying you don't buy what he said, obviously.
Aaron?
Yes. I'm sorry, Senator. I'm saying you obviously don't buy what he said. You believe that he has seen these reports. I mean, to your point.
Kevin, I'm not. Are we on?
And we have our first projection of the night. Bernie Sanders, not happening right now. Joe Biden is the winner of the Mississippi primary. Joe Biden carries Mississippi. There we have it, right there. You can see it. Maybe you can't see it. We'll fix that technical problem. But
these aren't too damning. You'll see more.
Joe Biden is the winner.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but
All right, so we know that there's deep state. There are people within bureaucracy, in government, not just the states, but all over, and they have no problem doing whatever they can to bring about the agenda of their masters or their own personal opinions and ideas. And Chuck Schumer right here is admitting that. Chuck Schumer, of course, is a Democrat. He's opposed to President Trump. And Rachel Maddow on CNN is like, oh no, please don't be saying this, because we've been trying to run the narrative for a long time now that every complaint we've had from, these intelligence agencies or whatever about President Trump or whomever we don't like is legitimate. They would never character assassinate anyone.
From what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And we look at the Russian hacking. Without the intelligence community, we wouldn't have discovered it.
The Obama administration's former CIA director, John Brennan, tweeted To the president, it's astounding how often you fail to live up to minimum standards of decency, civility, and probity. Seems like you will never understand what it means to be president, nor what it takes to be a good, decent, and honest person. So disheartening, so dangerous.
There are a lot of Americans out there who are scared this week, Democrats, Republicans, independents, because of the behavior by the president. Are you among them?
I'm concerned. I will say that.
I think Donald Trump has badly sullied the reputation of the office of the presidency with his invective, with his constant disregard, I think, for human decency, as well as his befriending of autocratic leaders around the world.
Yeah, the CIA, friends, is, has a lot of bad actors in it. Go watch the movie American Made or Air America, both about how the CIA was used to traffic drugs all over the world, mostly into the United States, in order to fund projects that they wanted to do off the books.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Do we even know who is this 4chan?
Back in the summer of 2014, when dozens of celebrities had nude photos stolen and leaked onto the internet, CNN reported that the perpetrator was a hacker known as 4chan.
Do we even know who is this 4chan?
A system administrator who knew his way around and how to hack things. It seems like this was not a big effort, but was more of a, I have these usernames, I know of this loophole, the security loophole.
4chan is a place where people post. It's not one guy. Like, I don't know if that's their own ignorance. Oh, gee whiz.
Remember that kidnapping in Cleveland, Ohio a few years ago?
Yeah, get away. Yeah, get away.
Yeah, that one. Well, as the story broke, CNN decided to do some in-field reporting in Phoenix. Notice how the vehicles from one reporter's box are passing directly into the other one's box. Well, that's because they're standing right next to each other.
And in that respect, are you surprised that they're not telling us this?
Sorry, I had it at 1.5 so I could listen to it again before I put it up here. But, like, look at that.
Yeah, you correctly.
They were pretending one was on location and one was back at, CNN headquarters. And they were both in the same place.
During the 2016 WikiLeaks dump of hacked emails from the DNC, CNN reported falsely that it was illegal to view these emails for yourself.
Because remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us. And in full disclosure, let's take a look at what is in there and what it means. Joining us.
The point there, of course, is it's not illegal for you to have those emails. I went and read a bunch of them, anything that was pizza related, ice cream related, and it was really unusual, the verbiage that was being used, things like, we've got pizza here that's 7, 8, or 9. That doesn't make any sense. You can enjoy a pizza tonight for an hour if you want. And I mean, that's a little less conspicuous, but when you know that pizza is actually code for that the pedophiles use, and there's way more emails than that, it starts to look pretty damning.
When young black man Michael Brown was shot dead by police in Ferguson, Missouri a few years ago, CNN perpetuated a false rumor that Brown threw his arms up into the air and shouted, "Don't shoot."
We want you to know that our hearts are out there marching with them. Please shoot us your comments.
So, friends, it never happened like that. I had someone on Facebook, someone I knew in high school, arguing with me about how awful I was for not agreeing with everything that was going on in that situation. So I spent an afternoon and I read 8 hours of police interviews because they actually put them all out on the internet for people to see the statements of all the witnesses. And I read them all. I don't remember how many there were. I think it was like 24 or something. It took me like 8 hours. And it was just so awful and blatantly clear how so many of the witnesses were just lying. And so their stories were all conflicting. And it was such a mess. And then there were, I think, 3 or 4 that were all basically the same, which is what the police officer there claimed had happened. And, you know, it's tragic. I just want to say this right now. It's tragic whenever anybody dies, even criminals, because I know where they go. And it's just so sad. But at the same time, you want justice and you don't want injustice. You don't want wrong claims being made. And so Michael Brown, I think he was 17 or 18, very big for his age. He had just finished strong-arming a business owner in a 7-Eleven or convenience store to steal cigars on his way home with his friend, the friend that made up the big lie about hands up, don't shoot. The APB had gone out. We're looking for, you know, 2 black males. They look like this or whatever. And I think the officer's name was Darren something. He was driving down the road, and here are these 2 guys walking in the middle of the street through this residential area. You know, you want to not get pulled up, not get stopped by cops. Don't do that. And so they get stopped. And Michael Brown was also high on marijuana at the time, so he wasn't thinking clearly. He got mad. He got aggressive. He reached into the SUV, tried to get the gun out of the holster of the police officer. And so then the officer, he was already punching him through the open window. And somehow the officer managed to get away. And the officer got outside and was commanding him to stop what he was doing, because he was starting to get aggressive, and he'd already been punching the police officer. And so while charging at the police officers, when the officer Darren whatever discharged his weapon, and he ended up one of the bullets struck him in the top of the head, because it was when Michael Brown was falling down. So the whole lie about, you know, being killed execution style was a bunch of crap. And the coroners, the forensic coroners who did the autopsy, said, we know that this is how it all went down because of where the bullets were traveling through the body, where the entrance and exit wounds were. And so CNN had no problem, when we're gonna see all about this, CNN had no problem perpetuating this lie, and we're gonna see why they would do that.
After the second presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, CNN was caught clearly prompting their post-debate focus group.
America's great. America's great. All right, so I want to ask you, what was it about Hillary Clinton's argument that resonated with you following Donald Trump's defense of the video?
She stated that America is already great, and I tend to agree with that. Though we are slow in progressing in a number of areas, we are progressing, and we need to continue the momentum.
CNN did a focus group. Unfortunately, oh, it's so sad, they got caught trying to convince people and find the right people so they could give a phony vote. CNN is a disgrace.
In October 2015, a gunman shot and killed 9 people at the UCC campus in Oregon. The shooter was identified as Chris Harper Mercer. However, CNN reported it was comedian Sam Hyde.
There was an ongoing conversation that began yesterday.
I'm not sure if this is an error or if they were trying to push a narrative.
Talking about what he was going to do.
Probably an error.
During the Milwaukee riots of 2016, CNN misleadingly edited this shot of Sybil Smith's sister calling for peace.
With his sister calling for peace.
Don't bring the violence here and the ignorance here.
Turns out they left out this important part.
This is how.
Don't burn it down shit we need in our community. Take that shit to the suburbs. Burn that shit down. Y'all want to hurt somebody, take that shit farther out. Don't bring it here. Don't bring the violence here and the ignorance here.
Wow.
So CNN calls this a police cordon. Kinda looks like a TV studio to me.
Reporting. What I want to show you now, viewers, is a wonderful scene to understand exactly how people feel here on the streets of London, so close to what were such brutal attacks last night.
The woman talking, the voiceover was this woman here.
Last night.
Of Russian efforts to compromise President-elect Trump.
In short, the Trump dossier was a document so full of spelling mistakes and factual errors that even MSNBC called BS.
Which you just published fake news.
We just published a dossier. No, I think that's a really...
Why is that not a fair... Why is that an unfair description?
When the document was debunked after it was discovered that Trump's lawyer Michael Cohen was touring USC campus in California at the exact same time the dossier purported he was meeting with Russian agents in Prague, CNN concluded, oh well, it was a different Michael Cohen.
Report. It talks about Michael Cohen, Trump's official corporate lawyer, making a trip to the Czech Republic. My reporting suggests that people did try to run that down. They did. And they concluded that it was a different Michael Cohen.
So recently, 3 journalists from CNN were let go after the network was forced to retract a libelous story alleging that the head of a $10 billion Russian investment fund had met with an official of President Trump's transition team just days before his inauguration. This comes just as Project Veritas releases undercover footage of CNN producer John Bonifield admitting that his network pushes the Russia-Trump collusion narrative because ratings.
Why is CNN constantly like, Russia this, Russia that?
Because it's ratings.
Because it's ratings?
Our ratings are incredible right now.
And
not just ratings.
A total lack of real evidence.
It's just like bullshit.
Could be bullshit. I mean, it's mostly bullshit right now. Like, we don't have any big giant proof.
Other presidents tried to say nice things about the Russians and other, warm things in their heart and they love, not in the face of an active attack on the country.
What do you think is going to happen this week? I mean, with the whole Russia thing.
The Russia thing is just a big nothing burger.
Really?
Thanks, Van Jones. Oh, oops. Oh, crap. Let's go back.
This is CNN, the most...
All right, so that's top 10 CNN fake news stories. If you want to look at that again yourself, I just was reminded of something. I think it was the New York Post chief editor writes letter. No. Walks out, leaves letter. This just happened this week. Hello, how is this so hard, Google? This is massive news. Tools, anytime, past week. This is the New York Post. If you know what I'm talking about, put it in the chat. New York Times staffer says young wokes terrify leadership. Yeah, that's probably true. Andrew Sullivan leaves New York Magazine. Oh, it was New York Times. New York Times editor resigns, saying she was harassed for her ideas. Wow. Showing up to work as a centrist, so political center, not left, not right, a merge of both, at an American newspaper should not require bravery, Weiss wrote. Well, anyways, there you have it. New York Times chief editor resigns, and that's why they resigned, was because of just how awful it was becoming. And and how, like the woke culture, the people that are woke, meaning they understand, reality, but through a progressive leftist lens, which is completely skewed. They're the cancel culture, saying that, Paw Patrol, you shouldn't have a police dog in it because police are bad. Elmer Fudd holds a gun, and so he should not be portrayed with a gun, etc., etc. This is one more. I think we're going to leave it, but here it is. New best CNN. Wow, you shut down Mixer with Your Truth. I might have, man. I can imagine. New best CNN fake news media bias compilation ever. So there's one you can take a look at. What I really wanted to look at was this 26-minute video. It's crazy. So Ron Paul, okay, so maybe you've heard of Rand Paul. He ran for president in 2016 against Donald Trump, and Ron is his father, and they're both libertarians, which means they're kind of conservative in their thinking, but they're even more right in kind of in terms of wanting more personal liberty and freedom and less government involvement. And most people who are conservative would say they agree with that to some extent, because the reality is the more control you give to the government, which is what we're doing here in Canada, the more your freedoms you're going to lose. And it's just they're taken away more and more. And we watched in our own Canadian election last year just how bad the media is as a part of bias in how they report and how they write their articles in order to keep out anyone they don't want to win. And last year we did have a new populist party that said, look, we want to do things like defund the Canadian Broadcasting Center? Canadian Broadcasting, CBC. We want, less taxation. We want to do a whole lot of things to give people more liberties. And of course, those that control the news desperately did not want this person to win, so they named him and his whole party white, right-wing, radical alt-right white supremacists. And I think 20% of their MP candidates, maybe even 30, were of different ethnicities. It was so disgusting. But so down in the States, when it was Obama versus Mitt Romney, Ron Paul was running to take the Republican seat for Mitt Romney. And so you're going to see just how bad it was down there. And friends, they're doing this everywhere. I guess the original video. We're going to talk later on about where can we get our news then? How can we get information if the news is so bad? And don't get me wrong, not everyone is bad. There are even good people in the CBC or objective people in the CBC, even though their politics might be different. But there are a lot of really radical progressive people out there.
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous? What if propping up repressive regimes in the Middle East endangers both the United States and Israel? What if occupying countries like Iraq and Afghanistan and bombing Pakistan is directly related to the hatred directed toward us? What if someday it dawns on us that losing over 5,000 American military personnel in the Middle East since 9/11 is not a fair trade-off for the loss of nearly 3,000 American citizens, no matter how many Iraqi, Pakistani, and Afghan people are killed or displaced?
So one of the things that people had against Republican Ron Paul is that very wealthy people that made their money off of, what do you call it? Oh my gosh. Off of wars, basically, because they produce the tanks, they produce the technology, they sell the rifles or whatever. They did not want someone like him to win because they wanted to keep the wars going. And they were very upset. If you followed the 2016 election and the race to become the Republican leader, they did not want Donald Trump to win because he said, look, I want to get the guys back from Iraq. We got to stop all these fights. We want to be strong so that no one wants to fight with us, but we got to stop fighting. And so with Iran, there was not too long ago, Iran shot down a drone, and then they attacked like a British ship or a NATO ship, I think. And people kept pushing him. After the drone, they were like, let's go to war, let's go to war. And he was like, no. They're like, they wanted him to like send in a cruise missile and kill like a whole bunch of people. And he said, I'm not going to kill 150 people because of a drone. And then when the ship got attacked, they said, now we really got to go. And he said, no, we're not going. Which, people want to hate Trump so bad. But that's pretty amazing to have that kind of resolve and restraint.
What if we finally decide?
I mean, it's not Trump who's going to go fight. He's sending our sons and daughters, people like myself, I'm a veteran, he's sending them to go fight, not himself. And before him, every president was like, yeah, sure, let's go get it on. Let's, let people die. Let's push our political agendas over there. And let's make money for the people that handle us.
That torture, even if called enhanced interrogation technique, is self-destructive and produces no useful information, and that contracting it out to a third world nation is just as evil? What if it is finally realized that war and military spending is always destructive to the economy? What if all wartime spending is paid for through the deceitful and evil process of inflating and borrowing? What if we finally see that wartime conditions always undermine personal liberty? What if conservatives who preach small government wake up and realize that our interventionist foreign policy provides the greatest incentive to expand the government?
And many of the globalists actually own the private banks like the Federal Reserve, for example, and they make huge money off of these debts and whatever. So they love conflict. I think it was the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers. No, or not the Rockefellers, obviously. Maybe it was the Rothschilds funding like Napoleon's war and on and on and on. So, I mean, my goodness.
What if conservatives understood once again that their only logical position is to reject military intervention and managing an empire throughout the world? What if the American people woke up and understood that the official reasons for going to war are almost always based on lies and promoted by war propaganda in order to serve special interests? What if
there's
we as a
Halliburton,
nation
they make
came to
lots of money.
realize that the quest for empire eventually destroys all great nations? What if Obama has no intention of leaving Iraq? What if a military draft is being planned for the wars that will spread if our foreign policy is not changed? What if the American people learn the truth, that our foreign policy has nothing to do with national security, that it never changes from one administration to the next? What if war and preparation for war is a racket serving the special interests? What if President Obama is completely wrong about Afghanistan and turns out worse than Iraq and Vietnam put together? What if Christianity actually teaches peace and not preventive wars of aggression? What if diplomacy is found to be superior to bombs and bribes in protecting America? What happens if my concerns are completely unfounded? Nothing.
Oh, that's not necessarily true.
But what happens if my concerns are justified and ignored? Nothing good. And I yield back the balance of my time.
So that was just setting up why they wanted Ron Paul to lose so badly. It's the military-industrial complex. That's what I was thinking of, which is what makes so much money off the selling of, military arms and technologies. They didn't want him to win. The globalists who own all the banks didn't want him to win. I will say, though, Christianity definitely, if interpreted properly, is okay with just wars to stop evil people from hurting oppressed people, the weak, the innocent.
Across the nation, there are 40,000 new laws passed. I'd like to be the first president to repeal 40,000 laws.
That's a lot of people. Many call him the modern day JFK. They killed JFK too.
Congressman, Doctor, presidential candidate and champion of freedom, Ron Paul.
I don't think this is as many people as Donald Trump would have 4 years later, but it's definitely more than Mitt Romney. The problem is people listen to the news. When the media says, no, this is who you should support, people go, yeah. Or they think, oh, whose name am I hearing all the time? Oh, yeah, that guy. And that's who they go with. We need to be informed, friends. We're losing our own freedom.
The stadium seats about 80,000 people. Only problem, Romney had about 1,000 people in the crowd,
There you
making
go.
the event look like a total flop.
I guess we had a hard time finding a large enough place to meet, and this certainly is.
That's part of his speech, I take it. How can you say that? How
Romney's
pathetic.
campaign couldn't even fill all the chairs in the audience.
Ron Paul appeared before an enthusiastic crowd, and many in the crowd were young.
That he is the only one who can win against Barack Obama. He's the only one with appeal to the moderates and independents. He's the only one widely supported by our troops. And he's the only one with the army of young supporters needed to win.
The thought that the Iranians could pose an imminent attack on the United States is preposterous. There's no way. This is just this is just war propaganda. Continued war propaganda, preparing this nation to go to war and spread this war not only in Iraq but into Iran unconstitutionally. It is a road to disaster for us as a nation. It's a road to our financial disaster if we don't read the Constitution once in a while.
Around the horn, Congressman.
A new CNN poll out today shows the Texas congressman in a statistical tie with President Obama if they were to face off in a general election today. Now, this is pretty amazing. It comes after Paul finished a strong second in New Hampshire last
Ron
week.
Paul, not going anywhere. Ideologically pure and tough as nails.
The big threat Paul posed to the globalists who want to push their agenda and were using Obama and still use Democrat leaders, but they also use Republicans, by the way. It would appear not Trump, though. That's why they hate him so much. Ron Paul, once people all over the spectrum started to hear what he would have heard what he was saying as he left the Republican race and entered into going up against Obama, he may have gained a lot of popularity from people who traditionally voted Democrat. So that was a huge threat. Ron Paul was a huge threat to the government, the media, and the elite group that turned the U.S. into a corporation many years ago. For the most part, they control the wars, economy, media, and everything in between. Ron Paul is a genuine hero, not a puppet like those currently in power. And of course, as you will see, the establishment did everything in their power to illegally censor, discredit, and eliminate him from the 2012 election. If we had not been lied to on such a huge scale, there is a good chance Ron Paul would be the current president of the United States.
Some Republicans out there have been saying that
This video came out, I believe, in February 26, 2016, before Trump. So this guy was not saying anything against Trump. He was
Paul would be very dangerous for this country because he wants to bring troops like you back from your post from all over the world.
Well, I think it would be even more dangerous to start nitpicking wars with other countries. Someone like Iran, Israel is more than capable.
All right, we just lost our tech connection, unfortunately, with Dana. Dana, stand by if you can hear me. We're going to get back. You want to go to Candy Crowley over at Mitt Romney headquarters. People are beginning to fill up that room over there, Candy.
I mean, if you look, somebody told me, from this last debate, I thought I did rather well. And they went down the number of times they mentioned
this is even
the other
Fox
three
News
candidates in the review of the debate. And it was, like 80, 90 times, depending on which it was.
Watch the reporters, they tell them they're going to get rid of them.
All the discussion of the
Cut them off
debate
now.
after it was over. Right. Now, you might argue I didn't win, or some people argue that I did.
You had the juice.
But it deserved more than one mention on all the stations. Somebody went and added these all up.
Thank you, Thomas.
So what's going on here? You're in this media business. I'd like to know exactly how that comes about.
I had a printout of how many hours.
So now with Plenty dropping out, Rick Perry dropping in, and Michelle Bachmann and Ron Paul dominating the Ames straw poll, we got ourselves a race.
We have a top tier. It is Mitt Romney, Rick Perry, and Michelle Bachmann.
We have a new top tier, and it's Perry, Mitt Romney, and Bachmann.
There's now a top tier in this race, at least for now, of Romney, Perry, and Bachmann.
I mean, I think that's fair to say. Really fair to say? You're not forgetting, I don't know, anyone, say an ideologically consistent 12-term congressman who came within less than 200 votes of winning the straw poll? Isn't anyone going to give that gentleman a little love?
There's a top tier now of Bachmann and Perry and Romney, and, we haven't mentioned, and we should.
Thank you.
We haven't mentioned, and we should, Rick Santorum, who did really surprisingly well for the amount of money and resources he had.
And by the way, this pretending
hey, what's up, Trevor?
Doesn't exist for some
Roser
reason has been going on for weeks.
Welcome back to the stream.
Survey showing Rick Perry running second to Mitt Romney, knocking down Iowa favorite Michelle Bachmann to fourth.
Behind who?
Why? Yeah, exactly. Why not mention Ron Paul?
How did Libertarian Ron Paul?
They know, friends, if they mention the person's name and someone hears it, it'll sit in their brain. That's how our brains work.
Become the 13th floor in a hotel.
I don't like Jon Stewart
He is Tea Party
and the things he's got to talk about, but this is truth.
Small government grassroots business, he planted that grass. These other folks, they're just moral majorities in a tri-cornered hat.
Michelle Bachmann's good, though.
And Fox News should love this guy. And even when the media does remember Ron Paul, it's only to reassure themselves how there's no need to remember Ron Paul.
Right now, live, right next to the bus behind us, Ron Paul is speaking. And 7 of the candidates are here today. We have live pictures of Ron Paul, but you know what? We're talking about Sarah Palin, we're talking about Rick Perry, the two people not in the race yet, Drew.
And guess what, Paul? If you get video of Sarah Palin or get a soundbite from her, bring that back to us. You can hold the Ron Paul stuff.
Wow, man, that's censorship. Telephone interviews with 1,026 adult Americans conducted by ORC International on February
let's look at the numbers
10 to
here.
13, 2012.
Okay, let's look at the numbers. Here are the favorable, unfavorables right now on the Republican frontrunners. Gingrich, 63% unfavorable, 25% favorable. Look at that spread. Romney, 54% unfavorable, 34 favorable, 20-point spread there. Santorum, he's relatively okay. 38% unfavorable, 32% favorable. He at least, well, he doesn't have a positive, but he doesn't have a bad negative.
That's pre-kitchen sink.
Seems they must have forgotten to mention the winner of the poll. That's fascinating. Texas Congressman Ron Paul Favorable 42%, unfavorable 36%. He would have won the favorables, friends. The ignoring of Ron Paul in this debate became so obvious the audience started getting upset.
Move on. Let's take another question.
Moderator skips Ron Paul, an obstetrician who has delivered over 4,000 babies on a questionable abortion.
Before we move on, you want to end this issue? They want you in on this issue. Would you like in on this issue?
John, once again, it's a medical subject, and I'm a doctor, you know.
So you've got a debate for who's going to be the Republican presidential candidate, and conservatives are, you know, usually pro-life. And here's a big question about abortion. They want to ignore them apparently for another time. Ron Paul storms off scene and said after questioning. Ron Paul storms out of the interview. Watch the interview and you decide if he did storm out.
I mean, you've been answering a lot of questions lately about the newsletters that were published under your name, and some of the things contained in them were conspiracy theories. Some of them are considered racist, and you've disavowed them.
I've been doing that for 22 years. This is an old letter, friends. They're digging up dirt.
The Ron Paul report. And did you read them at all when they were published during those years? Did you ever sort of take a look at it and say, you know what, this isn't what I stand for?
Not all the time.
But you did read them?
Not all the time. Well, on occasion, yes.
And did you ever object when you read them?
Well, you know, we talked about this twice yesterday at CNN. Why don't you go back and look at what I said yesterday on
This is CNN.
And what I've said for 20-some years is 22
Let's see,
years
down here
ago.
in the corner.
I didn't write them. I disavow them. That's it. I never read that stuff. I've never read it. I was probably aware of it 10 years after it was written. And it's been going on 20 years that people have pestered me about this, and CNN does it every single time. So
well,
and she's not going to stop.
Wouldn't you say it's no? But
when are you going to do that?
Is it legitimate? I mean, is it a legitimate question to ask that something went out
and when you get you get the answer, it's legitimate that you sort of take the answers I get. You know what? The answer is, I didn't write them. I didn't read them at the time, and I disavow them. That is the answer.
Well, it's just a question. I mean, it's legitimate.
Still not good enough for
legitimate.
CNN.
These things are pretty incendiary. You know,
because of people like you.
No. Come on. Some of the stuff was very incendiary, and saying that in 1993 the Israelis were responsible for the bombing of the World Trade Center, that kind of stuff. So.
Goodbye.
Look at him storming out. He's just going crazy.
I appreciate your answering the questions, and you understand.
Just raging. What a maniac. Class act, exactly. When does a poll ever show the loser on top and the winner at the bottom when Ron Paul wins? Look at this. This should make you so upset. High came in second with 20%, right? They want him to look like he's got like this incredible lead and there's no way anyone will win. And this is probably a long time after, like this is probably a much later poll. They don't want his name in there because then people go, oh, who's Ron Paul? And then they look and they go, I like this guy. Oh my gosh. When I talked to people about the candidate that I was supporting or the party I was supporting last year during the election, I think it was something like 70% of people were like, I love what these guys are saying. 70 to 80%. But the news media worked as hard as they could to keep them out of the limelight. CNN, of course, and all these other news agencies love pointing this stuff out because he raised $4.5 million. Second, wow. This is weird. They named him Romney by accident.
The media doesn't believe that Ron Paul has a hoot and hell's chance of winning the Iowa caucuses, winning the Republican nomination, or winning the presidency. So we're going to ignore it.
He's in first, not second. Says he's fourth place, but he should be in third. This is the BBC over in the UK. Paul, he should be in third right here. Why are they doing this again and again and again? We got 19th, not Santorum. 19%, apparently. How would Republican candidates do against Barack Obama? Romney, 45%, and Ron Paul, 45%. Wait, hold on a second, sorry. I just want to confirm that. Who would you vote for in November? Barack Obama. Oh, there you go. Ron Paul, Barack Obama. 45%, 46%. Oh, these these are the different candidates for the Republican Party. Ron Paul is missing. They've got an ad here when he's definitely one of the front runners. GOP hopefuls lay out strategies. Again, he should have been here. Where is he here? He's nowhere. It's wickedness, friends. It's evil. They want to control us. They want us to pick who they want us to pick. That was how the conservative liberal race ran last year. Ron Paul, 13%. Night of South Carolina primary, 4 candidates running. Apparently Ron doesn't have an HQ. Finally, Ron, is that you? No, it's a picture of Gingrich. Oh, sorry, Obama. I didn't know Obama was running the Republican primary election. So they chose to have space for 4 pictures in that article, but then they just chose the 3 candidates they wanted for the Republican Party, and then put the 4th as the person for, the president they would be running against. Busted. Corrupt news, Paul 1. Post-debate coverage mentions. Oh my gosh. So statisticians, they went through all the articles and whatever and listened, and these guys all got mentioned. He got mentioned once. Get informed, learn what the high power don't want you to know. Go to YouTube. Yeah. Bias media. We try so hard to help people just look at the facts. I'm having super bad buffering right now. I cannot. I usually get 6,000 kilobits per second. I have like 1,200, and it's going up and down. I really hope that they're not choking up my bandwidth to keep me from streaming. I can't believe I have so few viewers from Facebook. I might have to restart the stream. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to pause the stream and I'm going to restart it. Actually, shoot, I can't. We're just going to have to roll with it. Hopefully you get enough so that you can watch finally in October 2011, the prestigious Pew Institute officially confirms that Ron Paul received the least overall coverage of any candidate. Wow, that's so awful. Hopefully you're seeing enough of the videos that you can go look at them yourself.
Well, you know why, Ron Paul? What do you think that is?
I think it's 2 things. I think one is some people don't want to hear the message because it's a threat to them, because I'm a threat to the establishment.
Elites and corporations are scared.
They don't understand what freedom is all about.
Is Ron Paul being ignored by the media?
Look at that.
97% of you said yes, he is. 3% said no.
Ron Paul makes a lot of sense, and more people